Hi everybody, it's Julia, your trusted travel expert, helping you find that je ne sais quoi wherever you are in the world. And part of finding the je ne sais quoi of a place is, of course, eating. And so if you're going to France, Paris or France, anywhere, I wanted to kind of give you a primer of all the different ways that you can get food and help you kind of some vocabulary lessons in that, because I know some of that can be a little confusing in France. So the very first and most basic and probably not very frequently used place that you will, as a tourist, will use, but I want to tell you about them because they're in every single neighborhood, and that's a Taboc. T-A-B-A-C. A Taboc is basically a tobacco shop. They're kind of like little corner stores, and they will often have a little spot for you to belly up to a bar to maybe get an espresso, maybe a croissant. Super casual, often pretty smoky, but they are there if you just need something in a quick pinch. The two other kinds of places that you would be able to get like a quick breakfast or something to go easily would be a boulangerie and a patisserie, and those are sort of two sides of the same coin. Baked goods. A boulangerie, that means bakery, that is a bread making place. And boulangeries, there's one in every neighborhood. It's highly regulated that they have to be open. There has to be one at least open in every neighborhood, so they have to coordinate their vacation times. It's really fascinating to visit a bakery. It's a great thing to do to learn a little bit more about their culture. But every neighborhood's bakery, in the morning you'll see a line of locals getting their baguettes and their different breads that they need for the day. But you, as a tourist, can also get a baguette if you are making a picnic, or you can also just grab a ready-made sandwich on like a small baguette, ham and cheese, or salami and cheese, or like a caprese, like a tomato, mozzarella, basil. Usually they're cold, pre-made. They don't use mayonnaise, they use butter on those sandwiches, just FYI. And so you can grab those to go. To go is à emporter, to carry out, basically, is what that means. So you can get little sandwiches, usually at most bakeries, as well as just bread. Most bakeries will also have some pastries, tarts and eclairs and things like that. But really, a pastry shop or a patisserie is the other side of that coin, and that's where they mostly have pastries and delicious confectioner yum-yums, and they're often with beautiful window displays. They may also have a little bit of bread and maybe some sandwiches to go, but probably less so. So if you're kind of like getting picnic supplies, go to the boulangerie for your bread and or your sandwiches to go, and the patisserie for your dessert. Now, if you wanted a drink, they don't really have those. So if you wanted all three, drink, snack, or drink, meal, and dessert, the first place, or the most casual place you're going to want to go, is a cafe. Now, cafes are obviously ubiquitous all around France. In Paris, they can encompass super casual, more daytime places. They can be like more evening, like drinks, cocktail places. They can be little teeny tiny places. They can be big with sprawling outdoor seating. They're everywhere. But a cafe, just to let you know, is really more of a place for either a very simple lunch, or maybe a simple dinner as well, sometimes. But it's more of a place for you to grab either a coffee and a pastry and have a leisurely, quiet breakfast while you're sitting, or standing at the counter, because a lot of them will have counter service as well. And it's cheaper if you stand at the counter. If you sit, you often will have to pay like a fee for sitting at the table. But they don't care. You can order a glass of wine and sit at the table for 2 hours and watch the world go by, which is a great thing to do, actually. And they don't care. You can, like I said, you can get simple meals. There's, like Café du Marché, which is on Rue Claire in Paris. That's one of my favorite lunch spots because it's super, simple, casual. You can get, onion soup and roast chicken, or like a croque monsieur, croque madame, maybe pizza at some of them, just very basic, casual, super simple fare. They often will have a pretty extensive cocktail menu, and they will often also have a pretty extensive dessert menu with all kinds of, fancy drink desserts and or just desserts I can't even, like a floating island is one of the things. Anyway, there's all kinds of deliciousness. But a cafe is your sort of first stop, your basic stop. A lot of lunches will be at cafes, that kind of thing. But then moving on from cafes, the next kind of level, the other thing that's becoming more and more popular, it's similar to a cafe you might see, is a bar à vin. That's a wine bar. And that obviously will be more wine focused than coffee focused, but they serve somewhat the same purpose. And then often a lot of these cafes, especially if it's got a good sidewalk presence, will have a corner that has a crepe making stand that you can just walk up to. You don't have to go into the cafe or sit down at a table. You can just walk up to the crepe stand, and hopefully if it's a good one that's worth its salt, they will make a new crepe for you fresh. Don't buy a pre-made crepe, it's just a waste. I mean, they're fine still, they're good, still a good crepe, but believe me, go for the fresh one. First of all, it's fun to watch them do the process. It takes like 2 minutes to bake, and then it's just hot and fresh and delicious and wonderful. So that's a really good kind of snack or to-go lunch. You can get a ham and cheese and egg crepe to go. Again, that's à emporter, and that's something really great and wonderful and easy to find. Because like I said, they're usually kind of next to a cafe. But so if you want more of a meal, more of a sit-down experience, 3-course meal, the next kind of place you're going to want to look for is a bistro. Bristrot. I can't spell. And bistros are also very casual. They can be a little bit nicer than a cafe, but not necessarily. They're also, I think of them as sort of like a quick 3-course work-a-day meal. So, they almost always have 3 courses in France for both lunch and dinner. So whether that's, a soup, a salad, and a dessert, or they don't really do salads as appetizers. Oh, and let me tell you about the 3 different. So an appetizer in France is an entree. The main dish, or the entree that we call, is a plat, P-L-A-T, plat. That means plate. And then dessert is dessert. That's pretty standard. But so a lot of bistros will have they may have a menu of the day, which will be sort of 3 choices. That's their like specialty of the day. They may have prefix menus, but generally you'll just order a la carte, which is off the menu. And you don't have to order 3 things, but that's just what everyone sort of does. Remember, the portions aren't as huge there, so even if you get like a salad niçoise, it might be really big, but you'll probably maybe want a little sweet afterwards. But so bistros are always, again, pretty casual, and usually pretty quick. You can get in and out, in an hour. Especially like I know there's a bistro. The name escapes me right now, but it's right outside the Louvre, between the Louvre and Opera, and that's a really busy, bustling place for lunch that I really like to tell my clients to go to after visiting the Louvre. And you'll see tons of locals in there, and it's pretty standard fare. There's certain things that you'll start noticing are on lots of menus, especially in bistros. A steak frite, a roast chicken, a duck confit de canard. Confit de canard is a duck cooked in its own duck fat, usually duck legs. Sometimes they'll have a breast, but things like that. Very simple, traditional French fare. Then going one step up from a bistro, you have a brasserie. And a brasserie, actually, that means brewery. And brasseries are not actually supposed to be nicer. I feel like they tend to be a little bit nicer. They tend to maybe have a white tablecloth, and just be a little bit more elegant. They're still supposed to, it's a brewery traditionally, so they're not supposed to be fancy. And I'm not saying that they are fancy, but like one of my go-to restaurants in Paris is Brasserie Balzar, and that is a little bit fancy. It's white tablecloth, reservations are needed. So yeah, brasseries are usually almost always going to have 3 or 4 course meals. Again, you'll look for the prefix meals, because those are usually a good deal, or the menu of the day. One thing that I learned in just sort of checking my facts with this, brasseries are actually, which makes sense since it's breweries probably came mostly from Germany. They have a touch of a German flair to their food, So you'll get more Alsatian specialties like choucroute, which is sauerkraut, and maybe schnitzel-y type things. So heartier, a little bit heartier, a little bit more elegant than your traditional bistro. And then finally, obviously the most easy to understand is restaurant, because restaurant is a restaurant, and that is probably going to be more the most high-end, the most elegant, the most formal service, highest prices, and probably where you're going to want to have reservations. They still will probably have prefix menus. Prefix just means fixed price, P-R-I-X, and then dash F-I-X-E. And that just is basically, and a prefix menu doesn't necessarily just mean one choice per course. It might. They may have different menus at one price, or a prefix could be any one of these 3 things for the first course, any one of these 3 things for the second course, and one of these 2 desserts, that kind of thing. It's a really great way of ordering. A lot of people will order the prefix menu because that way you have less choices, it's less confusing. You just say, I want that, and they bring you those 3 things. So, and of course, I mean, in France, if you're going to a restaurant, you know, you really might want to look at the Michelin guide and see what's Michelin rated, either with Michelin stars or just they have like a recommended, like they were good but not quite good enough to get a star. And I do know that the restaurant culture in Paris has, or in France in general, has been sort of going away from that really formal white tablecloth 5-star service, and getting back into the bistros and kind of what you would think of as like a gastropub in London. So there's more options in France for really high-end dining than super formal. So that's my kind of some thoughts and some terms that you might need to know for dining in France. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.